welcome to the Stronger Than My Excuses show, good mental health in transitioning athletes. I'm Julie Watson from Stronger Than My Excuses and I'll be your host for the day. Before we start, I'd like to thank the Darkinjung people on whose land we are meeting today, and we really respect that, and them and their elders, past, present and emerging. So with me today to help me talk about this topic is Lawrie McKinna, CEO of the Newcastle Jets and former Mayor of Gosford. Welcome, Lawrie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Today's aim is to help transitioning athletes into life after the sport. And today I've got Michael Buettner, ex-NRL legend, over 260 games in rugby league.
Yeah, good to be here, Lawrie. Thank you.
We've got Adam Kwasnik, second top all-time goal scorer for Central Coast Mariners, and you'll probably stay that for the rest of your life. I don't think anybody will score that many goals. Glen Moss, Newcastle Jets goalkeeper, retiring goalkeeper and former New Zealand international, and ambassador for the KS Foundation, which is set up for autistic kids, quiet rooms at stadiums for when they're watching sport, which is a great cause. It's close to our heart because it's Kane Shepherd from Newcastle Jets is doing.
That's fantastic, very good. Thank you all for being here. And before we start, I would like to acknowledge our sponsors that you'll see on the screen today. We couldn't do it without them, and in fact our major sponsor is the Newcastle Jets Football Club. So thank you very much to all of our sponsors. So please ask a question. If you're watching today, some of us will be live to answer your questions straight away, and if not, we can get back to you as soon as possible. So the discussion begins. First of all, we want to ask the question, why is it happening? When someone needs support and they need more support than they've ever needed before, they seem to isolate themselves. So we want to start with the why it's happening. What problems, maybe, Lawrie, I'll start with you, have you seen, and what experiences have you had with this?
So being a coach for many years, a lot of times you see it, the players have actually gone because they've been daily, they're in a team environment, they're about themselves, and then all of a sudden they're gone and they're on their own, they're isolated, they maybe not got a job, they've maybe not got a plan for after football. So I think what we need to do now, we actually need to identify the players before they go into that retirement phase to actually help them then work out what they're going to do, so they're not isolated, and to get that network of people round about them before they go, because once they go, a lot of time that's them, they're gone. And it's important to actually keep tabs on them and don't just let them free, and then once they go into that state, a lot of them they do shut right down and they don't want to talk to anybody, because especially in the male, they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, Michael, have you seen this?
Look, I think you've got to bear in mind that as professional athletes, there's a lot of self-pride, and it takes a lot of motivation, a lot of discipline to get to that level, at that top level playing any sport. So and the expectations on the individual is that they do work hard and they aim to be as good as they possibly can be. So once you get to that point where you are nearing retirement, and if you don't feel that you've prepared yourself, suddenly you get yourself in a position where you do isolate yourself for whatever reason. It's just one of those things, because you've always been successful, you've always been driven, you've always worked hard to put yourself in a situation to be successful in that chosen sport. You want to be able to take that skill set that you had as an athlete and transfer that over to life after sport. And that's the hardest thing to do, because you've been so regimented, so disciplined in terms of your actions and what you've done throughout that time.
Yeah. Do you come across people that are at that stage and they are isolating?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, it happens. And I was fortunate when I finished playing. I went straight into working with the NRL. So I was still in that environment, which was familiar to me. A lot of players don't necessarily get that opportunity to work within the game that they have played in. Therefore, they do find it hard, because there's not too many jobs that you have where you get to train full-time, you're around your mates 24/7, and you're doing something you're passionate about and you love. And then once that's taken away from you, it's hard to find that passion again. Whatever it is that motivates you to get going, and that's the hardest thing.
And it's so high energy.
It's high energy,
sport.
And you've got to bear in mind, we're talking about, you are also admired, and your role models to thousands, hundreds, thousands of kids out there, and fans. So, you know, the pats on the back and everything that comes along with being a high-profile athlete, that's hard to duplicate outside of that sporting arena.
Yeah. What about your experience, Adam?
I think you hit the nail on the head. You've gone from doing something you love, you're getting paid to play a sport, and then all of a sudden it stops. That's really hard to cope with. I think, Mossy, you're going to be experiencing that in the next few months, but I think being placed in that sort of bubble in a team environment around your mates on a daily basis, getting paid to play a sport that you love doing, to transitioning into doing not what you love doing is quite difficult, and players seem to isolate themselves and tend to get away from what they love doing and end up with nothing.
I mean, it's the dream job. I'm sure every athlete says it. It's something that we've done since we were little kids. It started off in the backyard for fun, and then you get to go out here and do it in front of thousands of people and friends and family watching at home. And it's, I guess, all we've ever known. It's all we've ever wanted and thought about. So to ask professional athletes to think about what else would you like to do, it's a difficult thing to get them to focus on as well. We all had dreams of playing for Manchester United, Real Madrid, and I'll make millions and I'll retire. But even David Beckham still works. He's made millions, and he probably works harder now than he ever does with his businesses and companies and things like that. So it's definitely the people around those athletes that probably need to also step up a little bit and just give them a bit of a wake-up call and say, hey, the real world's coming. We feel you'd be good at doing A, B, or C.
So, you know what, this hasn't really become a major issue. Only probably become a major issue in the last 5 to 10 years. For the simple fact that people didn't know what it meant to play professional sport. All it meant was that you trained more, you got paid more, and that was your job full time. No one thought about what was going to happen at the end of their careers. And now we're at that point now where things need to be put in place. And I know rugby league, for example, they've got career transition. And when I started the NRL 2004, there was 2 people in the education and welfare area space. Now there's 2 people at each club. Plus we've got probably a staff of 10 at the NRL, and then they also have 5 to 6 people in that career transition position. Yeah. Right. So from that end, there is a lot of work being done in that area.
Good.
But it's not enough. No. It just needs to keep growing.
You've seen firsthand what those people are doing for the athletes that are leaving?
Most definitely, yeah. And there's plenty being done, but it's like leading the horse to water. You can't make it drink. So you can put all these resources in place, but if the player doesn't want to engage, doesn't want to accept...
I think there's got to be something in place. Football's got a long way to go. But I think the PFA, they've done plenty of courses and workshops for players in the past. I think there needs to be maybe an age where they're forced to take part in a course of some sort. Something to look for. I know the NRL, they've got people in each club. I don't think a lot of the A-League clubs have that in place, but it's something to work for.
I think some individual clubs, like obviously up at the Jets, I speak to a lot of the senior boys, Mossy being one, and started to get Mossy out into speaking engagements and getting used to doing that kind of stuff, which he did very well at, and he didn't know he was good at it, but actually gave him a bit of confidence, and he is very good at it. But Mossy's fortunate, he's a fortunate one, because he's going to transition into a goalkeeping coach next year, but there are only 11, 12 of those jobs in the country.
Yes.
So he's very fortunate, new club, new time, and back in Sydney near the family. And Mossy's team, that he could have got another year with us, but Mossy's made that decision. Maybe the body's not as good as it was, and maybe this is the right time to go instead of playing one more year. And it's fantastic for him. He's now got the career pathway, which he worked on over the last 2 years, being the youth team goalkeeping coach and assistant, which could see him transition in.
Yeah.
What you're saying, Adam, some players, they do need to go. Some players need a bit of help to do it, because they don't realise it's going to come to an end.
And quickly.
And they're in denial.
They're in denial that it's going to end. This is great, we'll love it.
And that's what I was going to say, because only until 2 years ago, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Right.
I tried business management courses, media management kind of stuff. It wasn't until I'd come to Newcastle, and I was fortunate enough that Lawrie was here, and said, hey, why don't you help coach the younger goalkeepers?
Right.
I think you'd be really good at it. Then I actually found that passion and was almost angry at myself. Like, I thought of coaching earlier. Yeah, I thought of it, but the idea went, oh no, it's just taking that step and how do I do it? And there's so many coaches. To have someone that believed in me and saw those qualities, and I guess took a bit of a punt and let me train those younger guys.
So that kind of moves us into the action. What we want to talk about is what the actions we can take. So Michael mentioned that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That's probably because, like you said, Mossy, players have only ever known one thing, and it's this hype, and it's this, the dream has come true for them. They've got to a stage, and then it ends. And for some reason, some of them will come through and say, yeah, I need help, and others won't. And how, maybe if we can start talking about actions, what can we do to make it that everyone gets some sort of help, like you mentioned, maybe.
For me, I think, obviously the code themselves, depending on what code it is, needs to have support structures in place. I know the rugby league does that and does it very well. I think soccer has a way to go when it comes to those sort of resources available. And again, we've got to bear in mind that, soccer has probably got a greater exposure to other avenues in relation to around the world in terms of opportunities for players. And we can't get away from the fact that, with soccer, these guys can have careers beyond 30, 35. They can just keep going and keep playing if they can keep picking up contracts. Are they postponing the inevitable? Probably. But eventually it's going to come around and you need to just accept it. At some stage you need to prepare yourself in one way, shape or form. With Mossy and what he's done, Quads likewise. And I was in a similar position. I knew I started putting things in place as I knew I was nearing retirement.
The clubs need to play a part in that though.
Yeah, 100%.
They see a player towards their end of their career.
Yep.
Questions need to be asked. Maybe workshops need to be put in place where they're almost forced to go. Maybe it's one day a week in real estate. Go and see if you like doing that.
We've got that in place in Newcastle with certain boys, but they've done it themselves, to be fair, but the club's helping them, pushing them, go and do that. And as a CEO of a club now, we should be doing more of it. The PFA do a reasonable job. Yeah. We've got the people who come out and support the boys, and because we're in Newcastle, we've got more players doing university degrees in the youth team, the W League team and the first team than any other club in Australia, because it's on the doorstep. So it's all very well going and doing courses, but you have to do something with it.
For me, resources are really important. I think resources internally at club land are far better and more effective than what they are externally. And the reason I say that is, this is about building relationships with people. You can't do this once a week or once a month. It's got to be every day where you're actually seeing that person, understanding who they are, what their circumstances are at home, kid situation, family situation, all those things that we're not just talking about what they are as a soccer player or as a football player. We're actually talking about them as an individual and as a family man, as a husband, as a father. All these things need to be considered and factored in.
And as a coach, I think I used to do that because I saw boys every day. If I saw Quads, I would know what was wrong with him. I could pick it. You could pick other boys. You knew there was something different. But as the clubs are getting bigger, I think football, we're quite a few years behind. The transition of the A-League's happening now. The A-League clubs, they can't afford those resources that you guys have got, which is great. And I suppose rugby union at the moment with the transition into the independent A-League, a lot of other things have to get ticked off. But I know, Mossy, I speak to you, you're an executive of the PFA. So you know a lot of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and I met with John DeLuca and people for the University of Newcastle to look at that transition, and so they're very well aware of it, and it needs to come in. We, as a sport, we need to do more. As a club, we need to do more, because it's not just 23 A-League players, we've got 20 W League players, we've got the youth team, and I think that is the average contract a player cuts about 23 years old, and that's them going for the game?
Yeah, well, I mean, over the 15 years of the A-League, the average lifespan of a player is 3 seasons long. So
that's longer than the NRL, because it's 48 games in the NRL.
That blows my mind. 3 seasons a player can come in, get a contract, think, right, I'm a professional footballer, and then 2 seasons later, they're out of the game completely.
And that's the hardest thing, where externally, if you've got the resource that's coming in, they don't know that player's come and gone or why they've left or for whatever reason. And like Lawrie said, we're not talking just A-League players now, we're talking W Leagues, we're talking, I've got a son who plays with the Mariners in the under-18s. And I know these kids, a lot of them are going to get spat out. And we've got the same amount, if not more, at that younger level that are getting spat out of the game, out of the club system.
And at the moment they're dreaming they're going to be a player.
Of course they are.
And some of them, okay, you're sticking in at school, but when they get to that stage, 18, 19 years old, they're no professional contract, they've got issues then, because all of a sudden they've been wanting to be a football player, rugby player, athlete, swimmer, all their life, and then all of a sudden the parents have been push, probably too much, and then all of a sudden it's taken away. So you've actually got issues, I think, at that 18, 19, 20 years old mark, when, or you've been a full-time player for 3 years,
Correct.
2 years at NRL, and then it's pulled out. It's not just when you're 37 like Moss's age, it's right across all sports. And I keep saying to players, you're fortunate that people come and ask you for your autograph. Michael still gets it, he'll still get it, Moss will get it, I get it. Because players have to buy in, or sports people, you see these arrogant sports, or the tennis players, and they spit the dummy and they throw rackets. It's a long time when people stop asking you for your autograph or wanting to make you feel special. It's a sad day. We're all fortunate. People still come up and ask us.
Yeah.
They still ask us because we are involved, that people recognise us. But it's an important thing now for that young age all the way through. When they get to that age where the knockback can come, you're not going to be a football player at that level, son. You're going to play with a local team. That's as good as you're going to be. That's hard for people at that young age.
Yeah. Now I'm going to move on to just ask you all one word that you could say to a viewer at home. One word, if you can, that describes an action that they can take right now. So one word. I'm going to start down the end with Mossy.
If you get my word.
I was trying to look at your sheet before because I knew yours would be better than mine, but mine would be mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
So I knew I'd get one. But I'm sure causal agree.
discussed that.
No, honestly, we haven't. But when you think a little bit about the question, and especially try and narrow it down to one word, I know that I may go in every day to the change room and see the same faces, but you just don't know where they're at that stage of life, what happened the night before.
Exactly.
Kids,
Very good.
family, anything like that.
Same word?
Absolutely, yeah.
Same word. Mindfulness.
I think, just be mindful. Even people in the community, you talk about high profile players asking for signatures, stuff like that. Just be mindful of they are a normal person as well, and they have their family lives and everything like that. And who knows what they're going through. Just be mindful of the whole thing, the whole picture.
I'm going to put two words together really quickly
Okay.
and call it good habits.
Good habits.
Good habits.
I like good
think
In Scotland, that's one word.
that's one word. Good habits.
Good habits.
Yeah, I just believe that if you start creating good habits, that it will point you in the right direction. It will steer you where you need to go. And habits also involve consistency.
Yes.
And I think that's a really important thing, that people need to get into a routine of doing things over. And you know what, it may be boring, and it may seem like it's going to be a slow process, but it's all worth it in the end. And if you remain consistent about what you're doing and you form good habits, then your intent is always going to be in a good place.
Lawrie.
Planning. It's just planning ahead.
Good.
Always thinking of the next step. It's just looking down, what can I do, what can I achieve, and it's just thinking of, if you put it in here and you write it down, and then you look, right, it's now time I have to do that.
Well, my one word is mentor. I think everyone needs a mentor.
Yep.
So that's it for the panel discussion. Thank you all for watching, and please don't forget to check us out on other social medias, like us and make comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Now, I'd just like to thank our guest today, Michael Buettner, great friend, see him about Central Coast all the time, great player, but great words of wisdom, because he's been there and done it, and it's not always been easy.
No.
As we all know. Adam, thanks very much. Came up here 15 years ago, settled in, was a big part of a great team, and again, you managed to transition, but you've had your ups and downs as well, as we've all had, and we'll not go into one of the times when he was working in between football and he smashed my truck, but that's another story. Mossy, thanks for coming down from Newcastle to the dark side, and you'll be here in a few weeks when we play the Mariners, but thanks very much, because you're actually a great example. I think maybe the show should have him back on down the track to see how his transitions went from being a player to the other side. And he's very, very fortunate that the new coach has actually started inviting him into the team meetings now to help him in his transition, which is, as the coach saying, something I would do. Some coaches wouldn't, but the new coach did, and Mossy was actually buzzing that he said,
Mental.
come in and see, and it was great. So boys, thanks very much for making the time and effort to come down and be part of this, because it's a big issue in all sports.
And I'd like to thank you all again as well, and thank you, Lawrie, for being my co-host. And I probably liked you better when you were the coach of the Mariners. I'm a Mariners fan, but I really appreciate it. All right, so I'd also like to thank our venue today, Central Coast Stadium. It's fantastic to be here. The beautiful backdrop. I know that it's a bit bright coming in, but it's fantastic to be here. Our videographer and editor, Sarah Cook from Atlantic Studios, what a great job she does, and also our major sponsor, Newcastle Jets Football Club. So thank you very much, couldn't do it without you, and bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.